Ahead of a new documentary, Detective Constable Maddy Hennah, who was lead on the case, joins us alongside Emile's ex-partner, Nicolene Shepherd. Good morning to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me what you thought when you first heard about this case, Marie.
So, the first time I heard about this case, I was at work on CID in Salisbury. And we had a phone call into the office. It had been a very busy day. It was a bank holiday Monday. It had been a very busy day, and a phone call came in. And it was from the chief instructor at Netheravon Airfield, where the accident had happened. And he phoned up to say that there'd been an incident the day before, and he had some doubts about it. He was unsure about it and thought that police ought to be involved.
So initially, everyone thought it was just a tragic accident, that the parachute and the reserve hadn't opened, and that she had crashed to ground. Miraculously, she did survive, but it was only when suddenly they looked at the parachute, they thought, hold on, this doesn't look like it was an accident, this has been tampered with.
Yes, as you say, miraculously, she survived.
It's incredible.
Somebody was certainly looking after her that day. I think right from the start, the chief instructor had some doubts.
Suspicion, right.
He thought something was not right about it, hence he'd called in police. Yeah.
Right. And did Victoria have any thoughts that it might be her husband at all? When you first started talking to her, what did she think had happened?
I think you'd probably have to ask her, but I think she realised that this couldn't have happened accidentally when we explained the technical side of why the parachute had failed. But I'm not sure that she thought it was her husband at that point.
When did Emile become the suspect, the main suspect?
So, about a week and a half after the incident, I received a phone call at work from a friend of Victoria's, and she said that she had some concerns.
And she was a doctor too, wasn't she?
She was,
yeah,
yes,
I remember.
in the military, yes.
Yeah.
She said she had some concerns about their relationship and that it wasn't quite the perfect relationship that it appeared from, to the outside world. And she asked if she could talk to me about it. So I took a statement from her about 2 weeks later, at which point we thought, yeah, he's going to have to be spoken to officially.
And so then you spoke to him, you interviewed him, and straight away your hairs kind of went up on the back of you. There was a certain level of intuition that you kind of listened to, and you were like, I'm not sure about this guy.
Yes. It's funny, when you deal with people all the time as a police officer, you learn to read people.
Very much so.
And I think he just made me very uncomfortable right from the get-go.
In what way?
He was supremely confident. When you've been arrested on suspicion of attempting to murder your partner, to be that supremely confident did not feel right.
It's interesting, Nicolene, because you met Emile many, many years before, and you sort of were childhood sweethearts, I guess. What was your experience of meeting him when you were a teenager and falling in love with him?
Don't really know how to explain it. I was a child, and I think I had sort of held a candle for him before I actually officially met him, because he was older than me. He was higher up in school. He was quite popular. He was part of the athletic team. So there was already a sort of attraction there before we even met.
And then when you did get together, and very quickly you fell pregnant.
3 years.
Yeah. But in terms of your age, I mean, you'd known him for a few years. You were only 16 at the time?
Yeah.
When you got pregnant with your first child.
Yeah.
Suddenly you were in a relationship with him. What was he like? When you think back to it now, did some of the sort of the controlling, coercive behaviour that we've come to understand is his way, do you see that now when you look back?
I see it looking back, yeah, 2020 is hindsight, but because I was so young, I didn't realise it at the time, so for me it was just normal. It was my first serious relationship, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. But, yeah, looking back, there's definitely things. It was all very much about him and how he wanted, and you just had this inkling that if you didn't do things the way he wanted it, there'd be consequences. So you'd change your behaviour in order to please him without him having to say you have to.
It was a very controlling relationship for both you and Victoria,
Yeah,
actually. I think
parallels.
she had the same thing because Maddy, she was reporting to you and she wasn't being completely honest at all times, I don't think. And he'd actually tried to attempted to kill her before.
He had. It's quite convoluted how we ended up there, but once we'd spoken to her on a video previously, and she'd given us an outline of their relationship. When I arrested him, my colleagues then had to go and tell her that he wasn't coming home. He was being bailed away from the home. And at that point, she told them about a gas leak the week prior to the parachute incident, which it transpired he'd also done to try and kill her.
And didn't he say he, like, try putting the cooker on? I mean, he was...
encouraging her to try.
He really was.
He was. So she had messaged him at work and said, you know, I think there's a gas leak. And he said, have you tried the stove? Well, she hadn't, thankfully. But
you described her as a hostile witness as well. Can you just explain what that means to sort of the layman? So when we had 2 trials. In the first trial, she was a witness, and when she came up onto the stand, she then started to change the story that she had told us originally. She said that he had not been... So he had taken her parachute to the toilet, and we believe that's when he had tampered with it. And she started to say that he had not been in the toilet for as long as she claimed initially, that she was gunning for him. We just told her that he was having an affair and he was denying paternity of their son. So she was gunning for him. And she then said that, in actual fact, she thinks she cut away a good parachute, and that she, you know, it didn't fail. She cut it away because she had panicked. I mean, years later, now, when she's reflecting on this and the trial in the documentary, she's more honest about how she sees things. But back then, she was clearly still caught in this spell, this coercive control that he had over her was so compelling. It's certainly... when we analysed the situation, we deemed that she was in a coercive, controlling relationship. And he had the strongest hold over anybody I have ever come across. I wonder, Nicolene, how you feel. I mean, what he ended up doing to you is he ended up deciding, as you said, it was all about him. You're pregnant, you had a child. He decides he's going to move to England because that's what he wants to do. And then he ends up marrying someone, even though you were engaged and you only heard about... I mean, it's extraordinary what he put you through. You then come to England, you sort of get back together with him. All these years later, when you see what happened to Victoria, I wonder how you feel looking at the relationship from the outside, from your perspective. Looking at their relationship? Yeah, and what you went through and perhaps how lucky you were that you weren't in that situation. I dodged a bullet. Yeah. Well, there was a lot of parallels between mine and Victoria's relationship with him, with certain things that he did, like denying paternity of a child, cheating all the time, those kind of things. Some that I probably would never even know about. Yeah, I feel lucky. Have you ever connected with Victoria? Have you ever been able to speak to her? I would love to, but no, I haven't. Because there will be some shared sort of, I don't know, experience that the two of you together might be able to help each other through what you went through. Because I'd imagine, Maddie, that is the thing. It's like this experience, the reality of it, the headlines, the story. Yes. It's something that will stay with all of you that have been under his spell. Oh, 100%. I think in many different ways it affected us all. And you identified with it very strongly, didn't you? Yes, absolutely. I was in a fairly dysfunctional relationship at the time and could identify with Victoria and what she was going through at that time. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it has affected a lot of us in many different ways, and I think mentally it would take Victoria a while to get through that. Physically she may have healed, but I think mentally, you know, it's like we say in the docudrama, you carry the scars with you. Absolutely. Well, it's absolutely intriguing. It's gripping. You can't stop watching it. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning and for telling your stories. The full Skydive murder plot is on Tuesday. That's tomorrow at 9 o'clock on Channel 4. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. And if you've been affected by any of the topics that we've been discussing in this item, you can head to our website where there are helplines that I'm sure will be able to help. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.